Elmer Davis and the news.
The recent report from Paris that the Allies are contemplating an attempt at the encirclement of Russia by attacks from the north and south found support in various pieces of evidence today. Reports from the Arctic Ocean seem to make it fairly clear that a British squadron is watching the Russians and the German ships who have taken refuge with them at Petsamo and Murmansk. Leslie Hoare-Belisha, the lately displaced British War Minister, told his constituents at Devonport that the Allies could shorten the war by well-planned, adequate, and decisive action to help Finland, but that any half-hearted intervention would be abortive from the start. The risk of helping Finland might be great, he said, but the risk in not helping might be greater. As once Finland fell, he argued, Germany and Russia together would be able to dominate Scandinavia. This argument seems well-reasoned, but even if, as has been suggested in some quarters, the speech was made with the approval of the British government to test public sentiment, it's a question whether it is not now too late to send the Finns help in the quantity that they need, especially if the Swedes and Norwegians, under German pressure, still refuse to allow Allied troops and war materials to cross their territory. We have no late news from the front in Finland, but earlier today the Finns maintained, without contradiction from Moscow, that they were still holding the line some 6 or 7 miles from Viipuri. Today's attack seemed to have been chiefly between two lakes in the middle of the Karelian Isthmus, where the Finns say the Russians were thrown back with heavy loss. And the Finns insist that they still hold the coastal fortress of Koivisto, whose guns are pounding the attacking forces in the flank and rear. The official Russian news agency TASS denied that Russian planes bombed the Swedish town of Pajala on Wednesday. He even denied that any Russian planes had ever flown over Swedish territory at all. And an attempt was made by implication to represent the whole story as a British invention. The Swedish government, however, which is in no doubt either that Pajala was bombed or as to who bombed it, continues to press its protest in Moscow. Tomorrow, the foreign ministers of Norway, Sweden, and Denmark meet in Copenhagen. And to their originally announced topic of the German submarine war against neutral shipping, they will now probably add discussion of the Finnish situation and of the more vigorous British policy, of which the Altmark case was the first example, but will probably not be the last. Russian newspapers, celebrating the anniversary of the establishment of the Red Army, took notice of the talk of an Allied offensive against Russia with a warning that if anything of the sort happened, they would make a counteroffensive into enemy territory. So far as the Army goes, this doesn't seem a very serious threat in view of what has happened in Finland. But there was also talk of possible Russian naval action in the Pacific, and that might do a good deal of damage to British seaborne trade. In the Near East, nobody is quite sure yet who's going to line up on which side if war comes. The Romanians are mobilizing, and they were sending forces to their Hungarian border. But it has just now been announced in Bucharest that the Romanian and Hungarian governments have reached agreement to cease all press attacks against each other, and the tension between the two countries over their territorial dispute appears to have relaxed considerably. All telephone communication between Turkey and Europe was cut off tonight. While this may conceivably mean another earthquake, it might also suggest that a censorship is being clamped on while the government takes some sort of action. A broadcast from our correspondent Cecil Brown in Rome tonight called attention to the decisive factor in all these moves in the Near East. Mr. Brown quoted the Italian newspaper Corriere della Sera as saying that all these British and French plans would collapse if the Mediterranean were blocked in the vicinity of Sicily, or if hostile warships were operating from the Dodecanesus, the group of islands off the Turkish coast which has been held by the Italians since the War of 1911. It must be quite as clear to the British and French as to the Italians that this would be very dangerous to attempt operations in the Near East without at least the benevolent neutrality of Italy. But we've had no news yet about whatever diplomatic moves may be going on in Rome, except that the Italian liner Rex, which carries Under Secretary of State Sumner Welles and Ambassador Myron Taylor, was passed through Gibraltar in what seems to be the record time of 3 hours and 40 minutes. The House of Representatives tonight passed the bill extending for 3 years the Reciprocal Trade Agreements Act, which now goes up to the Senate. The vote on final passage was 216 to 168, with 5 Republicans and 1 Laborite joining the Democrats in voting for it, and 19 Democrats, 1 Progressive, and 1 Farmer Laborite joining the Republicans against it.
This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.